Hi, my name is Tamara, and you are watching Things Even a Monkey Should Know. Thanks so much for watching again today. As you know, if you've watched some of my other videos, I'm not a professional at this do-it-yourself stuff. I'm just a girl who's figured out there are a lot of things around the house and out in the yard and on my cars that I can do myself and often save myself both time and money. So hopefully you have saved those things now too. So today is the second part of the installation of a new deadbolt, and last week we put the holes in the proper place in the door. This week we're going to install the deadbolt, and we're going to also make the spot for it to go, for the bolt to actually go in the frame of the door. That's probably something that some of you are wondering about since we didn't do that last week. So that's all I have to say right now, so let's get started. So as always, let's go over the things first that we're going to need today. First and foremost, you're going to need your new lock set or new deadbolt, and it should have come with the necessary strike plates, screws, here's the rest of the bolts, and some other screws, and all the stuff that you should need for the installation of that, not to mention the keys, right? You will also need to have a mallet or a hammer, perhaps both. If you don't have a mallet, you might want to have a hammer with a piece of wood around, because you can basically turn that into a mallet. I'm not sure which of these I'm going to need today. I suspect the mallet is what I'm going to need. You should have, you might need a pencil. It's never a bad idea to have a pencil around. Small assortment of screwdrivers, as always. That handy chisel that we had last week, we will be wanting it again today. We will also be wanting to have our drill driver with a power driver available again today, because we're going to be putting in some screws. You will want to have an actual drill available also, and I am keeping the router bit that we used last week handy, as well as the template for the other striker plate handy. But I'm not sure yet if I'm going to use this or not. Kind of don't think I am, but I'm just keeping it handy because it's not a bad idea. And you will also want to have a small drill bit too. And let's see, did I already mention the paddle bit? You want to have a paddle bit. Okay, so the sizes on these, the drill bit, you'll want it to be the size, you know, an appropriate size for the long wood screw that comes with your lock. I can't tell you, you know, which size for sure this is going to be, but you guys all know how to figure out which drill bit is the appropriate size for screws. And the paddle bit, mine is a 15/16 of an inch. You can use a 3/4 up to 15/16. 3/4 actually might be a little bit small, but you can make it work. So anything in there. And then the last thing, y'all are so gonna laugh, is you need to have a little bit of lipstick available. Okay, you don't have to have lipstick, but if not that, and by the way, you can get a really cheap tube of it too, because you're not gonna be using that much. But if you don't have that, or if your wife or significant other, girlfriend, whoever, if they won't let you borrow some for this do-it-yourself project, which is a very worthwhile cause, you can also use a little bit of paint, just some cheap paint that stays wet for, you know, 2 minutes. Spray paint will not work. I think that's all that we're going to need today, so let's go ahead and get started with this. So the first thing that we're going to be doing here is installing the actual deadbolt into the hole here. And this is just a tip. In case you didn't do this last week, if you already had a hole in your door, I guess that we might need to have a tape measure after all. You need to know the distance between the edge of the door and the center of your lock. And I measured last week and found it to be 2 3/8 inches. Now this is important because in the case of this lock anyways, it's good for either 2 3/8 inches or 2 3/4. And according to which one it is, you would adjust the lock out. So this would be a 2 3/4 inch hole or distance, and this is 2 3/8, which is what mine is. And it's just something to know and keep in mind. Now the other thing is that this, I don't know if you can see this, but it does say top on this lock, so you want to make sure that you get the lock the correct way up. Seems like dust just keeps showing back up in there. So I'm gonna go ahead, stick the lock in the hole, and if yours did not go in as easily as mine just did, you may need to pound on it with the mallet. Now mine went in to a certain degree nicely, and now it's not wanting to go all the way in here at the end, or it's pretending like it. So this would be where you could pound it and you'd be okay to do that. It actually looks like the hole might be just a tad crooked, which would be unfortunate. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, hopefully my head didn't get in the way there. I'm going to go ahead and use the screws that came with this. I'm going to take off the protective plastic here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to screw this in. Okay, so we got the actual lock in. Now what we want to do is install all of the other lovely accoutrements. And you want to start by putting in the outside part first. And basically, there is going to be, let me see what you guys can see here. See this little hole right there, that little black hole? That is where we want the stem of this to go through. So, I'm going to move you again. I apologize for all the moving. I'm trying to keep you in view here. I'm going to just stick this into our spot in the door, and I'm going to fit it into that hole where the lock is, and it should just fit flush on the door. You make sure that you get the name of the lock company right side up. Otherwise, that will probably bother you for a long time. It would bother me. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the other side of the lock on, which I'm fitting this little hole to the stem, the lock that was through there. And now you're going to have 2 screw holes, and probably they're going to be horizontally aligned. So I'm going to go ahead and get those aligned at this time, I hope. And I'm going to try to get these screws in there. And ideally, you don't really want to be working the lock quite yet. But I'm going to have to a little bit, in order to get these screws screwed in. Okay, so everything looks flush. Okay, yay, we got it in. It works. I should try the key in it to make sure the key works. And let's just see here from the outside. Okay, the key works too. That's fantastic. Okay, but here's the thing, we don't have anywhere for it to go. So I can close the door, but there's no hole for it to go into, right? Well, this is where the lipstick comes in. We want to make this lock kiss the other door so that we can see exactly where it hits. Isn't that funny? So if you have lipstick or paint, it doesn't matter. Just go ahead, give it a nice little coat right now. And try not to get it everywhere. And I'm going to shut the door, so this is where it should be, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to kiss that other door several times, and hopefully enough of the lipstick came off. There is a little bitty bit I can just barely see. As you guys can see, I'm kind of losing light outside, so it's getting harder to see. And I'm gonna go ahead, and while I can see pretty much where that is, I'm gonna just go ahead and fill it in with some white pencil, because otherwise I'm afraid I'm not gonna be able to see where that is. Okay, now hurry up and clean up that lock before it gets all, before it dries or gets messy or something else. Okay, can you guys see the mark that I made here with the pencil? That's where the lock actually hit the hole. So that's good to know. This is my strike plate for the side over here. Now this is just the pretty outer portion. This is actually what's going to go inside that we need to have routed out yet again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put my strike plate on the door, and I'm going to position it where that where the lock will actually go into it, because otherwise what's the point, right? Whoops. And then I'm going to slip and I'm going to move it. Good job. And then I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to outline around the plate so that I know exactly what needs to come out of here. So this would be the time for you to do this also. So mine has curved corners, and I'm going to do my best to make those curved corners happen. So I'm going to take my paddle bit and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to woggle out this hole here, and I'm actually changing to a 3/4 inch paddle bit because the 15/16 was just way too big. So I'm going to go ahead and put this right in the middle here. Huh. Oh, well, this is going to be special because that is hollow. So I don't know if you guys saw what happened there, but I just had to do a bit of creative problem solving, because whenever I drilled the hole in this door, I discovered that there is just a thin facade of plastic right here, or rather on this door frame, and the wood actually starts back in there just a little bit. So that's not very helpful. So I was trying to figure out, well, shoot, what can I do? Because obviously plastic is not enough to hold in a door piece. And there's something shoring up this one down below that makes it look like it's put into wood. That's why I thought this was just wood right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I changed back to my larger paddle bit, 15/16. It turns out it is okay. And I'm going to go ahead, and I had marked on it. I measured an inch in, because that's how much space my my lock needs to go into. And I'm going to go ahead and drill a hole for that lock to get into, because the wood is literally, it's right there, but there's just a little gap between that decorative piece of facing and the actual wood. So I'm going to go ahead and in my hole that I just made here, I'm going to go ahead and drill a straight hole in there if I can. So there is actually, it's actually hitting wood in there. Let me see if I made it as far back as I need to go. Okay, I think I have. So it's not going to go into as much wood as I would like for it to. So what I'm actually going to do tomorrow is I'm going to remove this now that I know what it is, and hopefully I'll remove it in a way that I'll be able to put it back on. And I'm going to add a piece of wood onto this wood that I can then put my strike plate on, or put my metal strike plate on, right? So until then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to score around this plastic area. And I got a little knife here. And by the way, I'm sure y'all realize I could have just shored this up and not said anything, but I think it's important for you guys to see that stuff does not necessarily go as we like for it to. So I am just wanting to go ahead and at least get something in here, you know, this evening, even though I will be changing it out, or I should say adding to it, not changing it out, tomorrow. So I'm, as you guys can see, this is incredibly frustrating, or it's turned a bit frustrating. I have this screw stuck through the middle of this so that I do not lose this piece down into the door this evening. It's not really what I want to do. So I'm just going ahead and I'm making a mark up here where that screw, where the top screw goes, and a mark where the bottom screw goes. And then I'm going to go ahead and pre-drill there. Okay, so this is just because I can, so I don't have to look at this unattractive plate. Of course, this whole situation right here is fairly unattractive. I'm just going to go ahead and screw this cover plate in, just for fun, to make something look nice, if I can, as long as I don't lose it in the door. So that's as nice as it's going to look right now with that raggedy edge, but like I said, I am going to explore the removal of this piece of trim tomorrow and adding in a nice piece of wood behind that trim. I don't understand why it's spaced out like that anyways. So there you have it. Hopefully your install was a little bit easier than that. Whenever we got to this side over here, what would have happened if you had wood, as you should, is that you would have drawn around your strike plate like I did, and then you would take your chisel and you would just chisel out the space to set your strike plate back into the door frame. So hopefully you got to do that, because that is far preferable to what I'm having to do. Okay, so the good news is that we got the deadbolt in, and the holes that we did last week were well done, if I do say so myself. Everything was at right angles, so that means that all the parts of the lock lined up and the lock works smoothly and really well. So if you had a normal door frame, which I would say 99.9% of people do, even if your frame is coated with something else, typically the wood is going to butt right up next to whatever is on top of it. Mine is just special. What can I say? So I do have a little bit more work to do, but hopefully you are all finished and you now have your new doorknob or deadbolt or whatever it is you're installing installed. So I hope that this helped you out and that you learned a few things and that you saw that all problems can be overcome in one way or another. So I will be making that happen tomorrow. And thank you so much for joining me today. Thanks very, very much to everybody who has already subscribed. If you haven't subscribed yet, please feel free to find the button on that side of the screen and go ahead and press it now. And if you enjoyed the show and or learned anything, please feel free to share it with your friends. I really appreciate it. So until next time, have a great week, and I'll see you again soon.